I should have asked you. Are you good? You're good. Okay. The board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meetings for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay, move on to items of discussion. And it looks like elementary building project.
Yep. I'll have Mark address where we're at with the boilers because they can address
we expect mechanical and did that second boiler on January 4th. Everything went smooth during that first week. We scheduled for startup this Monday. SCOM showed up and was working on the startup process, and they got called out for an emergency in the OR at KT. So they left, unfortunately. Mild weather in our boiler area, haven't had any problems, and they're scheduled to be back tomorrow to complete that startup. And then we'll have that redundancy. A little unfortunate with that, but it is what it is. And I can understand why they got to go there. They got a problem with the OR.
Yeah.
You can't fault them for that. It's just that the only important project is already.
Yeah.
Let's go get here tomorrow. We'll get it started up, and we'll let it run for a few weeks. And get on, and we'll be wrapped up.
Super.
Any questions? But it's actually gone really well. Other than our
Are you guys getting like daily construction reports and stuff? How's that working?
Not quite daily, but Rich basically.
Whenever, that's weekly.
Calls me about every week to give me updates or sends me emails. So we email updates on everything from our elementary program, but also on that.
Okay.
And so everybody's kind of in an email chain.
Yeah, it's nice to have something that, typically, I'm sure you're familiar with it, with a report format. And you can go, then you have it, you can go back to and look at it. You don't have to wonder why this is the way it is. Or, it just makes it clearer to go back in case we have to, get apart or whatever.
I've kept every email that I've gotten on all the projects. And Rich comes at least every other week and we go.
We have project files with all those important documents. So
Okay, good.
when you close it up and you walk away 6 months, and you go, well, what did they do? You just pull out the project file and all that critical information.
Okay, good.
So all is archived. Everything's archived.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Well,
You'll get O&Ms, warranties, all that stuff. We're going to file with panel.
Okay.
That'll be the thing that we'll have on the main project. No files or nothing. Okay. So the elementary building project, we had our final 90% CD budget alignment meeting on Monday, which we've been working on over the past couple of weeks. Between myself, the superintendent design team, and DAC. We feel that we're close enough now that we're comfortable to take the bid. Our levers are hovering right around 16.3, a little higher than what we like it, but we also know we have some cushion in there. We'll want to see what the bids are before we're ready to take the bid. With a 16,051 is what our base budget is. We think we're close enough. We've got all of our numbers from all subcontractors helping us pricing this as well. So anyway, take it out on the street. We're all comfortable with everything. So we're going to use advertising 24th 31st, and the 7th, we'll be bidding it on the 16th. So that's all the scopes of work, every one of the divisions we bid out. So if there's anybody, obviously, can be advertised publicly.
And what is advertising? We're getting a lot of questions like on Facebook and stuff like how local people are going to get a chance to come out. So that's why I'm for
Sure, being a public entity, you have to follow NCA's requirements for bidding,
Right.
which is advertising. So we'll be advertising it in the local paper.
Right.
It will also be advertised, as we're going to talk about putting it in the IR, which I will do. We're also putting it on the builders exchange, which I'll go throughout the entire state. And there'll be 3. Normally, the school, we only have to do 2 advertisements. For the state, we have to do 3. We're going to do 3 to allow for a little more time. And then we'll most likely have a couple of addendum periods in there. If something needs to slide, so that we'll bring slide it. One of the things we're trying to do is we're coordinating with another very, very large project that's coming out. It's not ours, it's the hospital project. It's one of the EACs that we're trying to get our bidding windows now overlapping. So we're hitting right where we want to be with the bid. And that was another large project coming out that's way now we want to so we're on a pretty good window for the output.
So anybody who is qualified, you would know that this will say, well, definitely.
Yeah, anybody,
there.
yeah,
Okay,
anybody
good.
that can meet the requirements of the document, and have the capability of buying is, be physical health, because everybody will be vetted to the lowest responsible bid. So no matter who's bidding, everybody's going to be vetted, low bid. There'll be an apparent low. On the 16th, there'll be an apparent low, so then we have to go through vetting and ensure that contractor has the physical health based on project to decide that the capabilities, background, that they actually can do the project. Once that hurdle fails, they will be the lowest responsible bidder. All that comes back, we'll have all the lowest responsible bidders. That comes back to us. I review it, make sure it's all right. I'm there with all the bid openings too. And it's open, so anybody that wants to bid it, they literally can drive and watch us open the bid. It's public opening. So make sure that gets out there too. But that'll be all in the advertising as well.
Okay, good.
It'll be publicly read aloud before it.
But
they do have to meet.
Obviously, yeah. I know whenever we start thinking about the building project, we see a few comments. I hope this is, I mean, that they're one that's available for anybody who obviously you have to meet a certain criteria.
Yeah, there's a misconception of this bidding is done at the GC. That is absolutely not what this process is. Your GCs already competed. We selected the GC.
Right.
That has nothing to do with 90% of the work is all the divisional breaks for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, concrete. All of that goes out publicly on a wide net that everybody has the ability to compete for. That's how we make sure that we're on competitive numbers.
All right, I guess
There's no reason that we couldn't announce those dates on like a school Facebook page just to initiate those people to look for those, is there?
Yes, but what you want to be careful with is if we have addendums to come out, we have to make sure that you get the addendum. If you miss an addendum, all somebody has to say, oh, well, the school said you were doing this on the 7th and all this.
Okay, we won't do that.
We could refer to the builders exchange.
So that's what you should do, exactly. You should put it on there and say, please look at the builders exchange.
Yeah, refer them to that.
And the paper. If you don't want to be the one saying the date, because if we miss one on your platform, all somebody has to do is complain that they didn't.
right. And that's what I'm obviously asking the question to avoid. I want to make sure it's going to be available to anybody who can be.
So maybe could you send us like the link
You
Is
bet. Yeah, absolutely.
and then we could put that
Because
link
it'll
on
also be there'll be a link in the advertising where they can get all the information. We're not putting the bid pack. We talk sports.
Right,
in the
right.
paper. It's going to be a referral of, the bid, invitations to bid or coming out. Here's the advertising page, bid date, lots of them are available at, the FTP site and builders exchange.
If you could somehow get that me or Eric or whoever, we can get it up on
You bet.
our stuff. We can link it on our building project page, and then I can share it on the school's Facebook page and my Twitter and stuff, just to make sure we're open on our website.
Yeah.
That way everybody,
Yeah, you bet.
that way nobody can say they didn't have a chance to see what was
Right.
happening, so.
Yeah. And it'll go in the local paper.
And that's great, yeah, that's great. Thank you.
You bet. These contracts, I sent the contract over to have a letter review, so I'll give it to you guys for review, and then get back to you. And that one's pretty close, I possibly already. Once we have that one, we'll get that process very quickly, with the UCC, one piece of that is a little out of the normal cycle that we normally do, would be, we did get a call on our steel, we quoted our steel, that's the heavy line plastic. So, in the interest of making sure we can lock those in, what I'm asking the district to do is that we write a purchase order as a owner supply. So we're gonna purchase that steel and then we're gonna give it to the EAC. So that way it's locked in. That makes sense? And then that'll just roll right into the contract. We already have it in the budget. We already have our steel supplier on. We don't have a contractual how to do that. This will put in that gap. We're gonna buy it ourselves versus, not be a, we just roll right into the EAC contract. That makes sense?
Does that include like the framing steel? Is that just the structure?
No, this is literally only the major white landscape. So all the
Okay.
big heavy steel, it doesn't for any of the light.
So you're gonna get all the red steel, that whole
Right.
package bought?
Yeah,
Okay.
all the big heavy steel.
So just certain members, not all of them,
Right, we want to lock in, because that's where all of it, that's where the majority of our funding is.
right?
Steel's only funding. We have fairly big increases that are going to be coming pretty quickly out. I want to lock it in, and this is going to do that for us. And we're only talking a few weeks before DSC is going to be full contract on the project.
Okay, so it'll be broken out in there, so a bidder knows what's provided and what's not.
Yeah, well, we already have our steel, and it'll be broken into a tonnage. So we're going to buy X amount of tons of white pine steel, so we know we're going to have on the project. 100% of the detailing is done, like stairwell and
Right.
That takes forever to build. It's none of those pieces, but it's all of our main structure, all of our heavy tonnage. This is just bridging of the steel. It'd be no different than if we purchased all the mechanical. And that happened, we purchased mechanical. And looking at it like that,
So to help me understand on that, then just to kind of clarify, because I don't know anything about these kinds of projects at all. So you foresee the price of steel being bumped up, or is it going to be a shortage of steel?
No, both.
Both.
But what they warned us is we better get in line, and we already did that. You remember 6 weeks ago, we brought on our steel supplier, went through a competitive process, put out RFPs, everybody had to compete, we ended up with a steel supplier based on a competitive process. But that wasn't based on the tonnage yet, because we don't have the tonnage because the design was not 100% complete. But what that did was get us in line that we are reserving this ourselves in line for production. If we didn't do that, they weren't going to give us a line. We would go in after the fact. If we waited 6 to 8 weeks, we won't get a place in line. This piece is we want to purchase the raw material that is going to take to do the production. We want to get the tonnage under the contract now before we have 15%.
Oh, okay, so you're basically just so I understand again, you're basically just buying the steel and it'll be made later.
Yes, we're buying the raw material, not raw material, but the raw shade, the white plant shade.
Okay.
The W shade.
Okay, all right, thank you.
As long as we're talking about steel, there was in the minutes, I wasn't here last month, but in the minutes from the meeting last month, you were concerned about getting, bids on steel framing,
Yeah, steel stud frame.
the steel
Completely
stud
different-
frame.
Completely
I
different.
understand. Do you have bids on that now?
We
You
actually.
think you're gonna get some now?
Well, our true bids only come in on our hard bid day.
Right, right. But you have contractors interested.
We did. There was one major contractor that we were really wanting to help.
Yeah.
Bid this,
Yeah,
and he submitted to bid it last week.
okay. Good.
So, which was a big relief for myself as well as the people that and now the deal drywall as well. We have two other ones that we were basing our current pricing on, which is significantly higher than what we've had that contract to do with our building. So
Okay.
we're really hoping that that's driving the competition on for it.
Okay.
Because it could be, we were looking at six figures as what we were worried about. So, we think that that's we're really happy that we can look at it.
Okay.
So, yeah, we just got that last week.
Shane, I have one quick question. Kind of roll back to that dynamic we were talking about, taking this out to bid now. So our our project, our target price was 16.050.
Yeah,
And so we're at 405. So we're at 16.3 now. Kind of looking at the dynamics of all of this, at what point is it realistic, say for me to expect you, the design team, to come back to us to say, okay, now is where we got to start trimming some of these things off of our budget and looking at substitutes and some of that other stuff.
Yeah, that'll come if we're over the 16051, but we've already done some of that. So we've already had some committee meetings. So we went through pulling back, like on the facade, we talked about really shortening of the windows. We pulled glass out. We've already started that process because originally we were at 17 points. So at 50% CD, we were $1 million, a little over. You guys already we had those meetings with the committee, and we kept developing that plan. We've done a lot of that. If we come in over, that'll be the time. We're comfortable at 16.3, so when we go to bid, we're thinking we're gonna get.
250,000 on 16 and a half,
Right.
16 in our project.
And we're literally guessing at some of these numbers, we're going off historical and maybe bumping it up a little bit. We're hoping that, again, if we have good competition, we're hoping to see that great, because we know we're a little fluff, I mean, on some of the numbers that we just don't know, like mechanical and electrical. Yeah, we got MEP numbers, we think they're high. They're higher than what we were seeing on the last couple of schools. We don't dare not use that number in our budget, but we think once it's bid, it's going to be. Because they're not going to give us their best number when we're after them. We just want to make sure we're within bandwidth, right? We reach out to them and say, hey, this is the plan where we're at so far. Can you help us judge what's mechanical and electrical running on that? So they give us a budget number. We compare that to budget numbers on the last 2-3 schools we just did and that bid day. You know, yeah, okay, it's close enough to the bandwidth. You still hold this number. That's a little, well, because they're not giving you the best number at that time. So we're hoping that through bids, we're going to see some efficiency in bidding and competition, and we're going to be under 1605. So
Great,
that's what the team feels, and that's why we're ready to take it. If we weren't that close, if we were still at 16.6 or 16.8, if we were still there, we would probably still be working on starting to make sure we're looking at each piece of the system. But you guys have already looked at it. Okay, we pulled the glass back to each single, we looked through the glass back out to the window.
Thanks.
You should have to do that. Anything else? Going into more on the building. hill claims. And I think you were part of that discussion 4 months ago, 4 months ago. And so I went through your hill claims. I think Kevin, you were part of that too. We'll talk about recovery depreciation and that piece of it. I went through all the estimates, the talked with your adjuster, and how I think I want to approach this is there's your elementary piece of this. There's a large chunk of this that deals with the elementary piece, about $547,000. That there's elementary through the middle school. It does have the library in it too, but I'll pull the library up there. There's about 88,000 recoverable depreciation, and this is draw this out. That is money that we went in and actually redid that entire project. The recoverable depreciation is what our bids came out to be, or what they would estimate that to be, so they would be depreciated amount. That's where it's just saying, hey, I'll give you this much money, and if you don't want to fix it, you can just take that money, or there's 88,000 we're projecting that you can get more, so you actually get more if the project turned out to be 700,000, they have to take it. I'm going to stay on that elementary piece, and how I've looked through this, that there's no reason for you guys not to take the recovery depreciation. I mean, not take the recovery depreciation and go after it, fix it, because you're going to be throwing money away because you're going to come in and down. So my suggestion is we either take the depreciated amount. I talked to Aaron, he understands, and he sees why you would do that. That would make more sense. So if you guys board, that's what I suggest you do, recommend that you do, and then do whatever it's at. And figure out how to run it. The high school is a totally different camp. That one will have to go after the recovery depreciation. They're estimating about 132,000 in recoverable depreciation. On 7. So they gave you 772,000 in depreciated dollars for the high school. Their estimate is they're about 900,000 if they actually do the project, but 131,000 will probably depreciation. That we reckon we have to do. We have to take that out to a true building project, and we want to make sure that design has to be bid out. That document to go with that. Get true bids for that, and then see where the dollars land. So it could end up being fair, and then at least because you're probably and then they may pull a lot of brand new roofs with funky warranties. So that's how you want to attack that piece of that, and not take it increases.
Is it up to that amount for depreciation?
No, they have no. It doesn't.
Actual replacement
Yeah.
or depreciation?
So what they're doing is they're giving us an estimate on, we think there's this much damage here, and we think this is what it's going to cost to redo it, to bring it back in there, because you have replacement and replacement back. It's going to cost $900,000 to work that. But if you haven't done anything, we're only going to give you $776,000 in depreciation. You can take that money and run if you want, but that's never right. You fix
Not when you have a replacement policy.
Yeah. If you didn't fix it.
You can't file a claim twice. So if it got hail damage again, they're not going to pay you twice.
Again, they're not giving you anything. So you need to replace it and bring it back up to, new roofing center, then you're back to zero again with the current stuff, and then you've got brand new roof on it. And then you're 20 years life on that, as well, 20 months. So what they're saying is they think it's $900,000 to do that. Well, what you want to do is ensure that we're going to take it out the bid because it's $101,000. They have to pay the $1,100,000. It's not $900,000. It's what our bid was. Is what they have to cover. They're just estimating that it's $900,000.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to want to take that out and make sure that you're getting a full replacement. Again, I still have to see how we estimated it. That was 776. That would be my recommendation for Saturday review. I've just talked with Aaron, he's excited, he wants to do it, he wants to do it. So he is decided.
So as a board, we need to make that decision to hire a design firm, right?
Yeah, we need to go get a designer, because we need a full set of data docs.
Okay.
You know, because we have to have, for the only way we have to have all the bonds and fiscal data, take it out properly. And then you need to decide if you want to accept it, depreciate it on the elementary.
Okay.
You know, the city exact dollars, so we do take, you know, exactly what it is. You know, different factors.
I guess I'm not clear on how it would work on the elementary and middle school if we're gonna demo those. I mean, why are we even, on the elementary and part of the middle school, that's gonna be demoed? Is that what you're talking about, just taking the recoverable depreciation?
No, we take
No.
the depreciated value.
Take the depreciated value, but
And
we
you're not-
won't do any work on it.
No, you're not going to do any work on it, so you have no opportunity to go after it with recovery.
Right.
You can't go after it because you're not going to do anything. If we went and did it, you see the money that was spent, and we're tearing it down. You don't want to do that. Not that way. You would take the depreciation.
And again, for that part, how much is that?
Well, there's a bunch of different little routes in there, and I kind of went through a little matrix on how we're cutting through the building, what's new, and there's still like probably 2 routes that we still have to do some minor work to, we still have 50, $500,000. It's somewhere in there, but I have, again, the 2 lower sections right next to where we're building the new addition, those 2 roofs we're not touching because our new middle school area is cutting this side of it, so there's 2 there that we got some work to do. That would come out of that depreciation. Okay. But the main part from sort of cutting through all the way back, again, it's virtually gone. Right. Anything we're cutting into, we're replacing the adjacencies right next to it. So on the map, it looks like maybe we have 3 small roofs. This one, and there wasn't much damage to this one, based on what their assessment of the main. So the vast majority of that should be kind of off of that elementary or maybe demo. You wouldn't want to waste that one. With 50 roofs.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, correct. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
That's all you got?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks both of you for coming. Appreciate it. COVID response plan, ever ongoing.
Yeah, so we kind of all went into a panic because they said, Governor Dean Fuente was going to talk about it. Oh my gosh, he's going to just dump it and we're going to get stranded. However, he did not dump it. So, he put some things in place that have to be in place before there's a mandate. MTSBA seems to think it's going to take probably until the end of May to get any of that done. So we're probably safe with the mandate staying in place at this time. The hard part about it is if for some reason that mandate gets dumped, we as a school district cannot make up our own rules and say, no, well, the school's still doing it. Our county can say that the county is continuing mask mandate, but as a district, as a board, we cannot, if the county dumps it, the board cannot say, well, we're still enforcing it at the school, according to Montana School Board Association. They said basically it would take a lawsuit, somebody mandating it and a parent suing and sort of force to figure out if the school actually has that right.
I have a question about that. Also, we talked about it in our principal meeting today. We were talking about the very same thing in the regional meeting. If, at the beginning of the year, when we started our reopening plan, there was not a mask mandate.
Because we were under the
It was
4.
under 4, we were on the.
We were, okay, that's why I'm questioning that, because that was part of our conversation, as well, if you started that way and we were under a mandate, could you still maintain? I don't know, you know what I'm saying? That was my question, that was one of the questions that came out today in our discussion, so, about, well, if we were able to start that way and make up our own, you know, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna roll out masks to begin with, we're not gonna mess around with it, and then we can, I don't know, that's why I was asking.
I don't think it's bulletin board if we made that argument just because we did it earlier.
Right.
I think a lot of the panic goes into the pandemic initially kind of had most people, you know, the ones that did question did, but very far. And plus we're under state of emergency.
I thought that was an interesting question, yeah.
I mean, I just like you guys, I've been following that thing, and I wasn't, NTSBA kind of, you're right, obviously, that we couldn't, but didn't they say it's defendable as a condition, what is it, condition of?
Yeah, see, I thought in our early discussions over the summer that
It's
we
kind of like being out.
we thought we could do that.
GPA graphic.
It was a weird thing that, which again, is not a guarantee that it would stand, but there was so much discussion back and forth.
Right.
And I'm hoping that it just doesn't happen until, you know, end of school. And hopefully we get enough people that are, you know, vaccinated to where this plan actually makes sense. That we're going to just want to people are protected, or at least have the opportunity to be protected under the vaccine, not with any question. So we're keeping a close eye on that, but I guess, you know, what I would recommend is that we figure out which committee is going to maybe help address that, because that's what we've done as committees when we get that to the mandate for some reason, just goes, you know, we have each committee on standby going, okay, we need to meet right now and figure out how we move forward.
Have a plan in place.
Yeah, kind of like we've been doing, you know, I think the nice thing about our district is we've been ahead of everything, not behind on that. So,
And I would think we probably need to have that conversation with the county too, if we can, and see if we can get a feel for what their plan might be. Because the county can't
That
impose.
changes that.
No, I know it does, and
No, but I guess-
I realize even if we initiate that conversation today, it will probably be
Yeah.
way down the road.
I just have to express, I guess, my concern with this is that, one, I know they're predicting that for us to meet all of the governor's requirements to let the mask mandate, it will take considerable time. But also, he turned right around even after with that information and said the mandate will be lifted in weeks, not months. Now, there's no way he can do both.
Right.
Unless we have an army, a literal army of vaccinators and vaccines come in and we line people up and give them. It's not, one of those two things is not an accurate statement. And he's going to have to make, at some point, obviously, he's going to have to go with either weeks, not months, or wait until all these are done. My concern with weeks, not months, is I have serious concerns over lifting the mask mandate here at school. I think the anecdotal, I mean, you can argue science, research, whatever you want, the anecdotal evidence we've seen here at school is that they help. And I could discuss that in as much detail as anybody wanted. But I think we are in school and have avoided a major problem with it for two reasons: distancing, masks. And I think anybody that was at the ball game the other night knows that if people, as our leadership seems to believe that if you don't mandate something, people will make the right decision. They will not.
That's for sure.
They will not. And by the way, if I'm going to sit next week, I want everybody to know where I'm going. Stay there. But anyway, I think it's quite clear people are not going to make wear masks. It's not mandated.
Right.
the reference Brad's making as he went to the Three-Forks game, and there were 9 people in the entire gym wearing masks.
I took pictures. I wrote them HSA. I didn't.
Including their administrators.
It's ridiculous.
it's not, that makes
unsafe.
things difficult for us.
And it's not against, but anyway, that's a whole nother issue. I'm concerned about what happens right here in our school, and I think we've made it this far. The light at the end of the tunnel for the first time in a long time, and I hate to see it give up on it now.
So that's
My
been,
2 cents worth.
yeah, and just kind of, I don't know, we've been through such and staff members, obviously, when I was with when the government was part in, and, I can flat out answer that, we tell the board, Darlene definitely not come to school, set up classes, and with her help, if we, and I think we have other teachers that have, concerns with family, that have concerns that it's just because, not as a threat or anything, she just wanted to share that that would be a deal breaker for her. She just doesn't feel like it's safe enough.
What would be our risk exposure for a lawsuit if the mandate was continued beyond, say it's lifted at the state level, the county does whatever the county does, but our district decides that when you're here, I mean, who would sue? I mean, my question is, who would sue us, and really why? I don't see any reason.
Well, it'd probably take the shape of an injunction or declaratory action where.
Well, who's going to do that?
Parents of students,
Really?
citizens of the
That's hard for me
community.
to imagine that.
I would go with Exhibit A of current events of the last couple of weeks in our country and go, wow, people, if they think their personal freedoms are being infringed upon, which I don't see how it is anyone wearing a seatbelt or not driving while intoxicated, whatever. But I think, I would like to think the feedback I've received from parents is that they are very grateful the school is in session and that we have done the thing. Yes, there are some that do not like masks. They're very clear about that. They've chosen to remote learn or homeschool the ones that are that opposed. And we give them that option. I think that's important. So I agree with Kevin. Whoever, I guess you look at lawsuits or whatever, court action, and go, wow, there's always that threat. You never know where it's coming from. But, I just wouldn't even guess right now if people feel like their rights are being infringed upon. But
How different is that from wearing a mask to like an appropriate dress code? If that's what we call it. What's the difference?
And I think I'm looking, I'm not being rude, I'm looking for the.
No, whatever, Brad. That's
For the
okay.
last email we had, and my understanding was kind of that's where MTSBA was going with that.
Right, yeah.
I want to say a condition of participation.
Condition of enrollment.
Yeah.
Lance specifically, Melton specifically quoted the case that established the 2.0 GPA rule for student athletes. And so, they're saying this would be somewhat of an extension of that. But thing that seems to be missing in some of the discussion is if the mask mandate is lifted, are we still under a state of emergency? Because if we're under a state of emergency, we have our MOUs, there's certain operating protocols that remain regardless of lifting of the mask mandate. But if lifting of the mask mandate coincides with lifting of the state of emergency, then there are other larger issues that.
Well, they didn't have a case of the day still or whatever, they're still.
So- But Brad, I kind of attribute that to the difference between being a politician and actually administrating. So it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to put it into action.
So basically, we want to try to put a committee together to
Yeah,
start
just decide who, before we had like the curriculum committee,
student services probably.
kind of put it, I think John were on that committee. But we also did a facilities committee once too. So I guess I would just like to know who that is, so if you drop the bomb on us, then, we would call and say, sit down with the administrative team and go, okay, how do we move forward? Just because I said it wasn't defensible, you know,
Right.
it might end up being a lawsuit.
Well, obviously, there's some more
They're working for
research that just needs to be done on that too, as far as.
it. And so we'll just, we'll have to try to have the best information possible. That's my recommendation is, because honestly, as Brad said, it's saying two different things. Who knows which direction that will go.
You know, but, and with that said, I've been following the MTSBA, you know, thread, and, you know, that's been fairly comprehensive, fairly responsive. I think it's reported or stated or really analyzed the governor's statements pretty well. I think their position and understanding of it is pretty good. If they're feeling, and I think I agree, and I think to paraphrase what you mentioned earlier, we're probably thinking it's going to be more of a May thing or something like that before the mask mandate is lifted.
If we follow what his plan was, yes.
Practically, in a practical sense, an administrative sense, and given that the government's budget as far as education is concerned has really been pretty stable and even better than both in some cases, I think there's hope for some rationale really around a longer time frame in order to maintain a mask mandate. So I feel comfortable in that.
Well, it's not that educators can use that for vaccinations, and then that's,
Well, but the old people are being moved ahead.
yeah.
That makes sense to me.
It does, I know it does, but I'm saying
You
as
know.
far as lifting that, and except we're going to open our schools and like
Yeah.
that, and we don't have the protection.
Oh, right, agreed.
That's what I'm.
Agreed, yes, I agree. Yeah.
I sent that, I found that, you guys recall the condition and all the But anyway, I think he's gonna feel tremendous pressure from the people that feel like they voted him in, as many people did before that, to lift it as soon as possible, and we'll see what he does.
Well, and I also feel that if it's lifted and we decide it's very important for us to maintain, let's approach it then, and if we stay with masks regardless, let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I agree with Sean, because I just don't see the risk exposure. I don't know who would sue us. There might be some complainers that might get loud about it, but to really move a legal action on something like that, really, I mean, I just find it, it's almost implausible to me that someone would actually do that. And if they do, I guess we'll work with that or whatever, say, sorry, take them off or whatever, but that's gonna take weeks, months. So, whatever, I mean, yeah, yeah.
So I guess just so I'm clear, are we saying we're just basically going to stick with the plan that we have in place with no changes
I agree with that.
regardless?
It's up to the Student Services Committee.
Well, that's what I see. Do we need a committee meeting, or is that something we're just
I'm suggesting committee meeting, and only because we really don't know what the
Right.
details are going to be.
Yeah,
okay.
And the whole thing.
Appropriate response to whatever they do.
Okay, so do we think it's a student services or a facility? Who's available, I
I think
guess?
it's Student Services.
Student
What did we
services?
do if they do open?
It's Sean and Todd.
We kind of did a combo, yeah. So I guess Sean and Todd, you feel you're both,
Sure.
Okay, the only thing I'm going to say is when we get to the committee report, I have two committees that probably need to meet, and they're both John and Todd. So, just saying.
Why don't we just do it all at one time? huh?
Yeah, no, there's a limit.
Yeah, because I wanted to, we need to do our discipline
Yeah.
meeting, and I was going to mention that. And then we have an activities meeting that I'd like to have, and that falls under student services too, to talk about some things. So just an FYI, I've already kind of got these two roped in, two other committee meetings.
Well, that's no problem, and with this, I think,
And if this is I mean, this could be 2 months down the road, 3
right,
months.
and to Jason's point, it's, staying the course until there's something that develops. And then we're just kind of predetermining where it's gonna get challenged.
Okay. I was just gonna mention the activities, that, you know, it's, we have done a fantastic job, I'm proud to say, with our activities. Our fans actually were really good. We played Manhattan, we got a warning that they were terrible and they weren't gonna follow it. Couple reminders, they were actually really good. So what's nice is people are following the expectations that we expect. Well, either they do or they have to go leave, so anything can be fixed. So, like I said, it went well. It's stressful. You sit there and look for people. And I hate to watch a game like that, but it's what we expect. So we are doing really well, you know, other than our competition. I don't know if anybody else has any other plans, but, I guess as far as also, House Bill 2 is in front of the House just passed it, I believe, on the.
Three.
Yeah, all three readings.
No, House Bill 3.
House Bill 3, did I say 2?
Yep.
Okay. Has passed, the House so far, and, that gets a 1.56% on, funding for next year and 2.57 the next year. Which is good, but it also appropriates the funds from the feds for $478,000 for the response. So we should be getting hopefully the paperwork in on that pretty soon. We have to do a budget. It's good through September of 2023. So that's September of 2023. So at least this has a little further. We were hoping they'd extend the first payments, but we just got to send them back and tell them how much we're sending back. So we're ready to get that. But we get the picture wrong. So we're in the limbo right now because we don't have any COVID funds, so to speak, to pay the subs and all those things, because we turn one back, so it's the new stuff. And also the leave, emergency leave that was given for COVID, that expired also on December 30th. So we're in limbo on that.
Terrorism market. You mentioned you have terrorism.
Well, there's the ESSER money and the CARES money.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What's the status on both of
We
those?
still have the CARES money, but that's been budgeted and that goes through, I think it was June of 2021, yeah. So
September of 21.
we've got that for another year, for the next fiscal year. As well as this. We had to budget that ahead of time. We may need to do, the budget, we're trying to take care of some of these CARES things, or some of these COVID things. 2015, yeah. We're in 20,
The CARES
beyond
runs
right
through-
now, so you're right, 22.
The CARES runs through September of 2022.
Yes,
Okay, and ESSER?
and this next ESSER will run to September of 2023.
CARES and ESSER are kind of one and the same. The CRF funds, that's the one that expired on
Right,
December
okay.
31st.
Okay.
ESSER is part of the original CARES
It was
Act.
part of the, okay, and what about ESSER 2?
That's what they think is that what they're calling it now? Yeah, that's what they're calling the new one.
So that's money
Okay.
that came from the feds basically to, strictly for education. The CRS funds they came to the state and the governor appropriated.
Okay.
And
Right.
CRF
Right.
funds actually got extended underneath by Congress. It got extended on the federal level and the SBA. Nothing, it said, even though it's been extended on the federal level, we don't think that the governor's office is gonna let us spend it.
No,
So-
yeah, they said it's been extended.
So
and then
who knows, there
OPI
may
said-
actually, that may,
Yeah, OPI said, no, it hasn't.
Yeah.
They're in the back.
and
Yeah, conflicting statements.
so there may be something more that comes up for that.
But we just got it from OPI, a budget sheet that we're supposed to put down, what we're gonna spend. So what we did spend and that's what.
That's ESSER, and that's what the original CARES
That's
ESSER.
the answer.
Okay. So not to be a pain, ESSER 2, what's the difference here now?
It's similar to ESSER 1, except for they did change a lot of the parameters of what they do it for.
Okay.
So the ESSER one funds were to deal with COVID presently. The ESSER two funds are to say, now that COVID comes to an end, it's to give you resources to bring those kids back up that may have been lost education. And so they've expanded that. We can use it for personnel, we can use it for, and there's a pretty good list, but it's opened it up a lot more as to what we should do.
And I think the amount was more. Did I get it?
It's 4 times as much.
It's 4 times as much.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
So this one's, yeah,
okay.
457, 487.
Something right there, right, okay.
Yeah, like 130.
And 2020, and September 2023, that's the.
That's the new acquisition.
Okay, okay. Thank you, I know that's.
No, it is confusing because there's a lot of overlap and we've already
Yeah.
done one budget for one, and so this is a separate budget.
There's gonna be a test later.
Oh, my God, I'm gonna fail even then. So when this, and ESSER two is not out yet, but it's coming out.
Yeah.
They haven't distributed.
They haven't distributed it, but, okay.
So OPI, like our Title I money,
Yeah.
OPI puts it into, e-grants, thank you, into e-grants, and then you have to fill out all your budgets and why you're doing it. And ESSER funds are the exact same way, they basically put it in e-grants, you have to fill out all the grant information that you've used, and then afterwards they approve it. Whereas the government money, you just, here you go.
What we have budgeted out for, programming out for 2 years. Thank you, yes, thank you. My apologies for that.
No, there's a lot going on. Of course, and I think that's all I have at this point.
Your other committee meetings, do you need to set those, or you guys got that all taken care of already?
No, I don't know if you want to sit here now, or if you guys want to.
We can have a lot.
emails. I think,
Okay.
Over the next day or two.
yeah, I
Okay.
just reminders, those are two committees that we need to get together and get some things figured out.
Very
And
good.
and if we do them on the same night, that's fine with me.
Okay. Okay, if there's no more discussion items, we'll move on to the consent agenda item. Minutes of the warrant.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Action items. Interview questions for superintendent interview.
Okay, so I put these in here, and there's 25 questions or something like that. All I did was I combined basically the questions I was asked, the questions Andrea was asked, and kind of put them all in there that weren't duplicate. And I think probably the best way for us to do this is get a couple volunteers from the board and maybe some administrators, and just go through these, mark off the ones we don't want, add anything we need to, change some wording on a couple. I know Todd's kind of worked on this a little bit already. Just to come up with questions that, I don't think we need to hear the 9 questions, but I did want to put out there to the whole board right now, in case you want to get feedback to each other. These are the questions we're asking. What do you want to do with them? What do you want to do with this? But again, I would recommend you put together maybe a small committee to look at these and come up with questions that you think are applicable for the job. For what you're looking for.
Sherry and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I think we were talking about this, and this is sort of what I think would make sense is probably the last week, or towards the end of January, to give us a couple of weeks, complete our strategic planning, go through basically with what we've done in the past, we look at what we've done, kind of where we are. We want to look really closely at who we are right now. And I think, we've done part of this in the past with other strategic planning sessions. Take a look at a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, and figure out, and then basically base some objectives and add some objectives, take some objectives away from what our strategic plan currently is, kind of as a rough draft. But with that, think about what is important to us. Identify who we are and what we need. And then base, and understand those things thoroughly. And then figure out what we're looking for as far as the superintendent is concerned. Then that drives what questions we ask. So I think that process makes sense to me rather than just, this looks good, this doesn't look good.
And we don't really need a formal action item at any really point to approve.
No, not on that. no.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's great.
So with that, I don't know if we want to do that right now, but I would suggest, Sherry and I were looking at some dates. Was it 25th or 26th for a strategic planning session? Was that what you thought
That's
might?
what you were suggesting, yeah, maybe looking at that.
Yeah, how does that look for you guys? That's a Monday or Tuesday? And then I'll iron out, and I've started ironing out the particular agenda for the evening and what our goals are and what we get done and how we're going to go about this and determine what we need.
I can be either.
Same here.
I looked at the calendar and it doesn't look too bad. John was out for 2 days.
Yeah, so that works. Everybody needs to participate. We want the community to participate. We'll bring everybody together. Okay, it's an important thing. So I want dates that'll work for everyone. 25th or 26th. We could even, it's a little late, but we could even go to superintendent application to do on the 1st, I think we said.
Yep.
Even the 1st or 2nd would be okay, because we could drive that forward then. And then basically we'll build some rubrics and so on and so forth, put them out on the Google Doc, and then take a look at those and evaluate those applications that we have coming in, and be able to do so remotely and bring that together. And again, that's going to kind of based around what we are taking, what we think are important aspects of for the superintendent. The superintendent to be on.
I think we've done Mondays before, is that correct? What if we just discuss this kind of, we don't have any problem with that? So when it's
I like the Monday before, the 25th, I like that date, other than it's Robert Johnson.
we had that discussion too.
We had that discussion.
Got it, so
I have
understand, I didn't know either.
But I can do that.
Yeah,
I think if it's enough time for you and what you need to prepare, I would say the earlier the better.
I think so, I agree, I'll be ready. Yes, absolutely. And I'll also revise the, just minor stuff, there's just minor stuff around the, mission, just some verbiage, just some little things around all of those, the vision, the mission statement, some of those things. I'll revise that and get that out to you guys. I've made notes, but I just haven't done the digital document. And then I started to put together the process and procedure that we'll use to go ahead and make this work. I would foresee probably, I would bet, we could plan on 2 hours one night and 1 hour the next, or maybe up to 3 hours on one night. What do you want? Complete silence.
I'd rather get it done in one shot.
Yeah.
I'm game with that. I'm game with that too.
Start early though.
Yeah.
I want to wait till like 7 o'clock.
Oh, no, my God, I go to bed like at 9. Yeah.
You see all the guys?
Yeah.
6 to 9, basically,
6 to 9.
on the
Yeah, 6 to 9.
25th. Okay.
May run a little shorter. I'll facilitate it so. But you know how it goes. You guys are talking and
We get talking.
and nobody stops. And I can't, you guys get out of control. And so there
And that's
you
on
go.
Monday, is that what we're sitting on? Okay. I'm
Yeah,
putting
6
it on
to
the
9
calendar.
Monday. And let's reach out to our community as well. That's important.
I will, I'll
Teachers.
put it, when it gets a little closer, I'll put it on.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think we're good to go. I feel comfortable with it, and if anyone wants to reach out to me and provide input on just the agenda, the structure,
Yeah.
what you think is important, please do.
We're 2 weeks out, so
Yeah.
that's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. But applications are due 3 weeks out, so,
Right.
yeah. So we're on it.
Okay,
So I'll get everything taken care of. 24.
very
I'm
good.
just joking. I'm joking.
No, you're not.
All right, moving on. Early retirement incentive.
All right, so by February, but it'd be nice to do it at this time, maybe.
Brad's signing up.
I'm trying to say,
He's like, where's the form?
So, last year we offered, 2 incentives of $15,000. You know, previous to that, we'd offered 10,000 with some insurance. We were hassle to offer that extra insurance incentive. Most people would take it, would have it rather than this. So, I guess what I am recommending is that we offer, one-time incentive of $15,000 with a limit of 2 incentives on first-come, first-served basis. As noted on the consent form, the opportunity will begin on February 22nd and will end on March 8th, which is actually the day before the board meeting to actually accept it. So that's my recommendation. If you have questions or not, this is not in the negotiated agreement, so we actually don't have to offer retirement incentives, but sometimes it's just that low incentive that gives people the little nudge to make that decision.
If you had a kind of an estimate, is there an estimate to be had on how many we might have?
I'd say 0. I really don't think.
Because last year we had 2 and we had 3, like 2 years ago. Something like that.
Did you have 3, you had 2 years ago? We didn't have any
I don't
last
think we had anybody take it last year.
year. And nobody last year. So 2 years ago we had 2,
Oh.
and then 0 last year. I don't foresee any this year, but it doesn't mean that everybody's talked to them. Yeah, Brad.
Well, no, but there might be other.
Oh, you're thinking he might have talked to somebody.
Yeah.
So, I've had one person kind of mention it to me and then talk themselves out of it right there in front of me, so. I don't foresee it, but I may be surprised.
I move to approve retirement incentive offer of $15,000 with no pension insurance for up to 2 qualified employees.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a retirement incentive offer of $15,000 with no extension of insurance for up to 2 qualifying employees. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Mileage per diem motel discussion.
All right, I brought this up because I believe this probably should be a board decision and approval since we're spending money on this, but, different districts offer different compensation for candidates that are chosen for interviews. So I would suggest that you have a discussion on what you are going to offer candidates, so we're consistent. We know, when they call us and ask about the job, you know, when we offer an interview, what would we be willing to offer them as far as compensation? I've written.
Is that customary?
Well, you don't have to. Actually, we can say, no, we're not doing that.
We're offering
And that would just
great
be
place
for
to
the
work.
interviews.
Yep.
Scenic views.
That was just those that are asked to interview.
Can we get a voucher at the Mint?
When I went to Wyoming, they paid for my motel, they paid my mileage, and they paid my.
You got a lot of money down
They
Wyoming.
got a lot of money.
That's a long ways from anywhere.
I don't think I've ever gotten any reimbursement in the state of Montana for any interviews I've done, at least not that I remember.
I could see it maybe if we had to do a second interview with somebody who we really like, and scheduling the interview is like an imposition, schedule-wise or something for them. Maybe, you know, if they had to
You think for the
Yeah,
first.
it is, just an imposition. I mean, and like I say,
You know, the only other thing I can think of is it is gonna be, what, February maybe? If the roads are bad or something like that, we could,
I think there's gonna be a lot of.
give them a room back.
Open.
What's that?
It sounds like there are a lot opening and open, there might be a lot of competition for this kind of thing too, so I don't know if somebody's really adapting, I don't know. I don't know.
Last I looked, there was about six.
It's just someone said, okay.
Yeah.
How many districts do this? How many districts offer that?
Like I said,
Compensation
I don't
for
think I've ever been offered.
lodging.
The only thing I know, that, both Kelva and MTSB had it on those forms, so there's, obviously somebody does it, because both of them talked about
Bigger
it.
districts pay, I mean, they'll pay twice. If we get someone from Rhode Island, we're not gonna pay it.
Right.
Out here, or something like that, so, no, if you choose not to, I don't think that's an issue.
Well, I mean.
We just gotta be able to say no.
I mean, you know, I don't know, I know guys that have gone, I know guys that have gone and used this, well, they're paying for it, I was like, oh, I have no.
Free motel.
Yeah, I never meant that,
Gets about a 12.
I mean, really, it's, you find out, it drives me crazy, like, the teachers apply and then don't want to come here unless they make arrangements to do it, I'm like, I guess that, we've had this discussion,
Oh, yes, they have.
when you interview, when you apply somewhere, there, you're doing it thinking, I'm interested enough that I'd be willing to go there on my dime and check it out.
Make an investment.
or, if we were really trying to pursue a specific individual, and saying, if you will make the time, we will cover the expense of bringing you out here, but we're, I guess I would wait to see kind of what the market bears, the level of interest that we have in the folks that apply. And if somebody is coming from maybe a smaller school to us, just maybe the difference in atmosphere and professional development and money and things like that, that wouldn't be an issue. Except I've traveled for job interviews, and that was just something that, like I say, the prospect of the job and being selected, and it might create kind of an unrealistic expectation. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if we were marketing regionally, that's another matter. But we're looking, probably statewide, and if you want the job, you're gonna take the time to go look at it, I think. And then they're getting paid for the day off anyway. Unless they're an appointment, I'm not sure why.
Get a furlough down.
So
Yeah.
I like what
Do it for one, you gotta do it for all, and I mean, then are you gonna, go, wow, this guy's coming from, wherever, coming from Denver, are we gonna pay
Yeah.
his mileage?
That's
Pay an in-state,
a ridiculous amount of money.
You open up a lot of stuff, I think.
I think if you want a job, I've never, of course, I don't have a lot of jobs. I haven't had a lot of jobs. But if I want a job, I want to go, I'm going to go look for it. I'll pay for it. It's on my dime. That's what I want, right?
That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
You went from one side of Helena to another.
Yeah, I moved like 5 blocks, yeah.
Did they pay your mileage?
50 cents. No, not a dime.
No, I think we tackle it when and if, that candidate and that kind of circumstance comes up. And, and I don't think it's something that would necessarily need to be voted on by the board, but as a part of vetting out our applicants and going through the interview process and the second interview if necessary, if that kind of issue comes up, then we just deal with it.
I can see a second interview, if you bring them back, so sort of interested, but, you gotta be careful, if you go for one, you gotta do it for all of them.
Yeah.
Then, I think it might wave your mind. I mean, really, if they come down and we're like, hey, we need 4, we're gonna interview 4, and you go, well, this fourth one, we got this one coming from, Wednesday, or this one coming from, Equalizer.
We could get some subs. You know, have some sandwiches.
Grab
and go.
There's a full lunch,
We got all those meals you bought for.
Oh, yeah. Pre-made lunches that are terrible.
Okay, so basically, we're just going to pass on this and move forward. Very good.
Yeah. Could you take a break? I'm gonna take a break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a break for a few minutes here.
What was that?
Okay, approve calendar change.
Okay, so with the new basketball tournament format, basically we have a conflict with parent-teacher conferences on the 23rd of February. I'd like to suggest that we move the 3 through 12 conferences to Tuesday, March 2nd.
So we did just get.
The only thing I'm worried about is at this point is do we need to talk to all the teachers and get their feedback before we make this approve it?
So we did get a rough out of what the girls bracket would look like. It's gonna go very much like volleyball for both boys and girls. Highest teams will be hosting the games on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we are very likely to be hosting, here at our house, one room or the other, on that Tuesday. So Travis kind of spotted that and said, oh geez, we might wanna, that's how this initiated. Go there and say,
Yeah, I guess I should, it's just, yeah, we could be in all likelihood hosting that evening here. We can't really have conferences while hosting a basketball tournament. And so that
Can you
would-
just say subject to approval from, the teacher's
Well,
representative?
if the teachers don't want to approve it, what are we gonna do? Yeah, that's my only.
My only concern is if the teach, that's the one thing that you cannot miss. So
Yeah.
if they do have something that day,
Yeah.
which I mean, they got.
I guess I'm not saying we say, yeah, are you guys willing to move this or not? What we'd say is, these are alternative dates that we could do this.
Oh, I
Well,
see,
not
okay,
today.
well, okay, I got it.
And
Pick
try to
another
get what they
date.
feel is the best day to do it.
Okay.
Of course, it's gonna be conflict, and then it's gonna be whoever the most. What happens at the time.
I see what you're saying. Okay, very good. Very good.
After I put this on here and thought about it, I thought, is this gonna be another thing that teachers go, well, they could change things, you don't tell us.
Yeah, no,
Now,
I agree.
this does have to be approved by the board, any calendar change.
Correct.
Does have to be approved by the board.
We're all done
We
working
still have
on
time
it,
for the
everybody.
February.
I was gonna say, it should be after the February board meeting.
Yeah, so let us do some research with you guys, make sure that they, and I've already talked to union. The President and Vice President both said, no, it's not great.
We can easily send out a Google form survey thing and just say, what would continue to say, what would be your
Look
preference?
at the schedule, see what we have
Yeah,
scheduled, and
we'll
see
do
where,
that early.
give them a couple different options, and see which one, and then I'll bring it to the February meeting.
Okay,
So Sherry,
Yeah.
is there a is the plan right now then the vehicle will continue as,
It will be hosted on site somewhere kind of like they did Colorado. That's the
There's not much
discussion.
chance of a division, I mean, obviously that was quite too
Yeah.
large, so there's no chance probably of there being anything here.
No, because we looked at that too, and that, I mean, that's per discussion that we've had already, and yeah, no, it's not likely. Once we get past that, it's that district because it's on the local level that we will run into trouble with. So. Divisional and state, whatever that may look like. Might be at different locations, but it's gonna be regional, you know, it's gonna be regionally, talented and, put that in.
They had it in one location, but basically it was still just one team, or two, the two teams are the only ones that were allowed in
Yeah, but it
there.
was two buildings, like they had it in Red Lodge, they had it in the Civic Center, and then they had it in the, school. So we had it in two.
So they had two games going.
Right, and then they just cleared it and only those people for those things.
Okay.
Yeah. So I assume there'll be something.
Okay.
At least that's the.
Okay, moving on. Personnel resignations.
Okay, Miranda Howell has submitted a letter of resignation for the position of assistant high school volleyball and seventh grade girls basketball. Reason being that she is expecting another child, so decided she can have an handful, did not think what she was going to do. So.
Her husband said no way. So.
That happens. So I would recommend that we approve this.
I move to approve the resignation of Miranda Howells from assistant high school volleyball coach and seventh grade girls basketball.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Miranda Howell from assistant high school volleyball coach and seventh grade girls basketball. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Employment, long-term substitute.
Okay, so Addie Fiddler will be going, taking maternity leave either late February or early March. Sarah Tiffany has been approved to be a substitute and is currently certified in the state of South Dakota. We don't have any others certified. So we're happy to take one certified in South Dakota. I was waiting for a South Dakota. Oh, they went into that pretty good. Usually it's North Dakota.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you said North Dakota, we probably would.
And since Addie is a special education teacher, we feel it's best to be a certified teacher. That's a little more difficult. Addie will do the paperwork and all those associated with it still. And so I would recommend that we hire Sarah Tiffany as a long-term substitute, rate $75 a day as a long-term sub. And then that,
What duration is he looking at for?
6 weeks.
I think about 6 weeks. Her plan is 6 weeks and coming back, is my understanding.
30 days, 30 actual teaching days.
No, it's 6 actual calendar weeks.
6 actual calendars.
I know, we've had this discussion 100 times. It's 6 weeks, right? Brad?
Quite a discussion about that, not about it.
I said number of days, and I think you said.
There aren't any holidays.
I interpreted, I guess I had always gone as, I interpreted it differently.
Yeah, because we had one that was towards the end of the school year, and Brad said, no, they still got days beginning in the next school year. No, they don't, it's 6 calendars. I think he won. So I said it backwards.
I can't remember.
So.
It's 6 weeks of actual leave from the field.
From the
So
field,
you could end on 1 year and
Start
start
on
up the next because you're in not in a contract anymore.
But in this case, it's in the middle of April by the time.
Yeah, she'll be back before the school year.
In the middle of April, give or take, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
He's only taking 6
I
of the possible.
thought the conversation I had with her.
Okay, and I can't, we kind of got the same schedule as just what they signed out.
Yes, and it may be longer. Honestly, it may, if she gets an extension, if she takes the FMLA, but we keep this person in here we try to break up at least 1 or 2 days because there's so many consecutive days that they work for the district, you have to give them a contract. So you don't do that.
And it should be, spring break, what, early April, maybe late March, early April. So that was like.
We wouldn't be able to give them a contract though if they can't, if they're not credentialed.
No, and we usually break up one day. If they don't have, and then if you have one break in service,
So the first would be the, second would be the.
Department of Transportation needs to run all of their staff. This is work for 11 months and everyone.
and I do have another sub to approve, but not a long-term sub, but you want to do that as a separate item? We'll take it into this.
Because, so she's certified in South, they're certified in South Dakota. You interested in certifying in my county?
We'll have that conversation, okay? Because it's very, very nice lady, it's like 50/50. Kind of recently got her on the list.
I don't think the recertification from state to state, from out of state to in-state is a terribly long process.
Montana goes out of their way to make it incredibly hard. We've had that discussion with OPI and so has the school administrators union, how difficult it is for Montana.
Many administrators turn jobs down from out of state to Montana because it's so hard to get certified.
Maybe what I read was that it was OPI or somebody wanted to try to make it easier. Maybe that's what I read.
They were trying to.
Yeah,
They discussed it, but yeah, we lost some positions of people that just said they couldn't get certification. You know, they're certified in the number of classes that it was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, we had one actually quit because we did a probation or something, and they said, I can't do it.
Do they have to do online renewal OPI kinds of credits? Is that what they need to do to?
All everyone has to go back and do
You
that.
guys take
Yes,
class.
we college training.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my. Okay.
It's terrible.
Your book learning.
Okay, I guess you don't get.
And it depends what state, for
Yeah.
one, but, you know, we have counselors that keep doing it in other,
Counselor.
they've been doing it in other states for years. They would not accept that.
Say again, please, say again.
We had a position that a person had been doing the job for a number of years in another state, and Montana just required quite a few additional things.
Okay.
And that was, but they may have softened up a little bit, but I think there was a proposal from somewhere to make it easier because of the teacher quotas in Montana.
I thought I saw that someplace, but, you know, that doesn't mean a thing.
Well, there's other states that have the reciprocity because
Yeah.
you come from Montana certified, you get both ends.
Yeah.
If you've got another long-term substitute,
Not long-term stuff, I got another substitute.
just another sub, okay.
So,
Maybe we should package something.
Yeah, we'll do those separate.
I'll move to approve Sarah Tiffany as a long-term sub at the rate of $75 a day.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to approve Sarah Tiffany as a long-term substitute at the rate of $75 per day. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Short-term sub.
we got an application from Lily Giono. To be a substitute, she's actually just finishing up her teaching credentials, like a wage.
Yeah.
And so wants to start after January. Oh, no, I guess it is after January, isn't it? And so I would move that we approve her pending.
I move to approve Lily Giorno as a substitute training background check. Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to approve Lily Giono as a substitute pending a background check. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. C-Squad girls basketball coach.
One application for the C-Squad girls basketball coach with Karen Huffman. She was interviewed for the position and recommended the activities for a committee coach. I would recommend the hiring Karen Huffman for C-Squad girls basketball coach. 2020, 21 school year.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the hire of Aaron Huffman as C Squad girls basketball coach for the 2020-2021 season. Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Aaron Huffman for C Squad girls basketball coach for the 2020-2021 season. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Policy review. I think most of these, just about all of these are second readings,
Yeah,
correct?
there's only 3 of them that are not second reading.
Okay.
So they should hopefully go fairly quickly, I believe, unless I just sit here and talk about them. Okay, so the first policy is policy 3224, student dress. And we did like the NTSBA policy, because they have a legal reference to tribal regalia, which by law had to be in there. And we also added, that they have the word suggested building, not material or exactly just for the educational process, which is important. And I did add in there to include alcohol and tobacco on my so that should be reflected in the package. So I would recommend we approve NTSA policy 3224 to get
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do what Mr. Wilkerson said. Approve model policy 3224, student dress for second reading.
Okay, well, I will second that, but I want to look at it first.
Okay, I'm going to repeat it. It's been moved and seconded to approve MTSBA Model Policy 3224, student dress for second reading. Is there any discussion?
Maybe. I know it's second reading, but
Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Policy 3225R.
I apologize, I ripped all this stuff out and make it really good. Everything's on part. 3225, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is, the only one that we have is just simply 3225, and I know it's required, but that's.
Yep.
I see.
3.6 on the bottom of the
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. You got pieces.
Okay,
I'm
so
also 2.0.
this is on sexual harassment and intimidation of students. MTSBA policy does add some good wording. It all, I think the important things are sexual misconduct, sexual before intimidation. It's also has electronic contact in the first paragraph, which is important. The words denying and eliminating the provisions that have it under 2C. I don't know how much you guys want me to say.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
That's not like I'm good with it.
You're okay with me just reading through it? Okay.
I'm good with
Oh,
that.
just not reading through it?
Not reading through it.
I would recommend.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
No, I did a lot of work last time, like all that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, we talked about all this much of this last time.
So I would recommend that for the MTSBA policy 3225, sexual harassment, sexual intimidation, sexual conduct, second reading.
Yeah, I move to approve policy 3225R, sexual harassment and intimidation students. Sexual conduct for second reading.
Seconded. It's been moved and seconded to approve MTSBA policy 3225R, sexual harassment, sexual intimidation, sexual conduct for second reading. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Policy 3226R.
So during the last meeting, I made a recommendation of adopting the Montana School Board model policy. 3226R, bullying, harassment, intimidation, and hazing. The only two things are, only the section for one or more of the following as per the board recommendation. So, I recommend this to policy 3226R, bullying, harassment, intimidation, hazing, to take reading. It's still too many words.
I move to approve policy 3226R, bullying, harassment, intimidation, and hazing on second reading.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to approve policy 3226R, bullying, harassment, intimidation, and hazing for second reading. Any further discussion?
One minor point, Mr. Chairman. Policy history, I think it needs some update. Adopted, reviewed, and revised. We made changes from first reading to second reading, include that clause. Just a note. I guess we use it that.
On 3226,
Yes, sir.
okay.
So you would just need to add a date of
Just
last,
make sure
last
that it-
meeting, basically,
Yeah.
right? That
Oh,
we made
okay.
that revision.
It should have been revised. That should be the revised.
The revised date would
It should be
be,
the second, it should be today.
December 8th. Or was it today?
It should be today, the second reading for final approval.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Policy 3231.
Okay, 3231, is, the searches and seizures. I did recommend that we approve the Montana School Board Association policy 3231, search and seizure for second reading. With the note that we did add, the pat down or search of a student if investigated, conducted by a school official or employee of the same gender as the student. So I recommend we approve the second reading.
Now, that note is included in the policy, correct?
It's on the policy.
It's on the policy.
I have it in blue right here just so it shows up. It will be black. And I will look at the history.
So that'll need the same revision date added on that.
one minor thing, Mr. Wilkerson, after the, in the word search that you got in blue, you got a single quote.
Do I have it pulled off?
Yeah.
Let's take away.
So,
Oh, there you go.
you know, all those really big things.
That's what we do. And obviously, that's what I'm not going to do that.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve policy 3231, searches and seizure on second reading.
Been moved and seconded to approve the MTSBA policy 3231, search and seizure for second reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Policy 3231P.
Looks like I need to do it. All right, this is just the searches and seizures. I would recommend we approve the Montana School Board Association model policy 3231 seizures for second reading.
So we don't have that.
No, we don't have it. Unless it's further down.
Well, I'm digging through all my files and stuff, and I don't see it.
No.
I would say no, it's not.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we just pass
Pass that
consideration?
We'll move on to policy 3233.
Okay, so we table that. Okay.
Pass consideration.
Okay, this is, student use of building equal access. Our policy limits the student use of buildings to secondary school, student organizations, Montana School Board model policy references policy 3510, school-sponsored activities is one school-sponsored activities. Under the criteria must be met, number 4, our sentence ends with non-participatory capacity for the MTS EPA policy, all this official achievement. The Montana School Board model policy also references policies 3510, school-sponsored activities, 3222, distribute social materials, and 4231, school property for notices. I recommend approval of model policy 3233 from MTSBA to use the building to process.
I move to approve MTSD model policy 3233, student use of buildings, equal access for first reading.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve MTSBA Model Policy 3233, student use of buildings, equal access for first reading. Any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Policy 3235.
Video surveillance, our policy is the same as the MTSBA model policy, video surveillance. Their model does offer an option for video with sound, but we don't want video with sound. It just opens up the whole world of what we want to leave it just the way it is. So, I would move to approve the policy 3235 video surveillance as reviewed.
Let me, and I looked at, now, is this on first reading?
Yes.
And I get the idea, I get the sound, the audio stuff, like, I can understand that, but and let me ask an exaggerated question, is video any good without audio?
Oh, yeah.
So you have two people standing together arguing, and you can't see it, and you only see them standing together, and you can't hear a thing, you can't do a thing, right?
But arguing is not against the rules, it's when they start going.
Yeah, the first swing.
Yeah.
First thing, what about a student maybe verbally assaulting a teacher? One student verbally assaulting another student, and another student verbally assaulting another student?
Yeah, and you make a good point, and we debated that. What it really came down to is we had tremendous pushback from our union over sound.
I remember the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, it would be beneficial at times, for sure. It would also be, beneficial, but I think there's major drawbacks to it.
Anything that we've done, that I've had experience with where we needed to look at the video for something that wasn't really a sound issue. And we were looking for some
Identification.
Identification or somebody backed into somebody in the front parking lot, or it's been able to be solved just by what we see and taking a picture. Even if I have a copy, you can go, so what can you tell me about this, or where were you? And then I say, well, this picture of you shows me something different. And then they go, so, usually it's solved.
Oh, I realize 90%, 95%, 80% is probably that very thing, that very type of thing.
Could we perhaps ask Shane, based on the security systems that are being proposed? I'm unfamiliar with, I'm somewhat familiar with the security, the surveillance system that we've got in place right now. But if we're going to have extended capabilities through surveillance as a part of our upgrades to the school and with the new elementary school, I would actually like to know that and perhaps address that in the review and any amendments to the policy before we actually vote on the policy.
I can tell you what's in there right now with the cameras on.
And I can tell you a little bit about the cameras too, because I talked to the engineer this afternoon. And we're basically what we proposed to them for what we're interested in is the same cameras that we just put in the high school, into one of those services. And they do have a lot of advanced tech in them. They have the capability of doing recording sound as you use it, all of that disabled. And certain cameras, they don't actually allow sound.
But I think that there are other things than, there may be, security breach issues that occur on campus where audio would be beneficial. There may be other situations, not just student on student, there are a couple of things we talked about that might make that beneficial, and I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate, but intentionally so, because I mean, we can always, revisit the policy, but I would feel better knowing what the focus of our campus security is and how our policy would actually best adopt what is intended with that equipment.
I think there's serious issues with using sound to record conversations.
You'd almost have to have a signed release.
I believe we determined, at least last time, it was legal as long as it was noted that it's audio and our current cameras, the reason it was an issue is because our current cameras do have sound. There's some of them are turned off, disabled, and I can tell them nobody.
When you look at the optional language in the model policy,
It just has to be noticed.
I just think the potential, I think there's a lot of potential for it. I believe there's potential for accusations of abuse. People that actually, I just think it opens up a lot of issues.
I think I need
I mean, I don't.
Well, the deal is, the deal is, if the union goes nuts, they go nuts. Our job is to protect people, to be able to protect kids and protect teachers and protect people. And if audio is part of that protection or evidence in some kind of situation, don't we deserve to at least consider that? Don't they deserve it? Not we. Don't they deserve it? I'm just saying. I'm not,
I think so.
I can protect people.
It also harms people. I mean, there's a lot of potential for misuse of audio. There really is.
There is, but so does video as well.
And I think but video's not as intrusive as.
But you guys know what's half the story.
I don't know. It's somebody that deals with it all the time for, as part of my job. I don't really see the benefit of audio report as compared to the downside. As I say that, I mean, I don't care. I can't figure out how to use the camera.
No, I'll attest to that. He comes to my office and says, hey,
I don't.
we got a camera that does.
We got great cameras that don't want to use them. Can't access them. But anyway,
and I don't. And I don't know the right or wrong in it, but I want us to be able to serve students and protect students and teachers, just all the same. And if video is part of the solution, well, that it is. If it's not, it's not. That doesn't go.
So what is your recommendation at this point?
I guess my recommendation is to consider this policy, maybe take a look at what some other schools are doing and just kind of look at it a little bit more widely and probably come back to the same point. I very much suspect we'll come back to the same point. What's kind of recommended and probably just do a little more homework on it. mean, that's what I feel comfortable with.
I agree.
So how do you want to go about the homework side of it? Or how do you propose we go about that?
Well, that's a great question. I think the board chair should take this on. And reach out to, or somebody. And of course, MPAs, this is what they're gonna say, I get what they're gonna say, but what are the pros and cons around that? What's the rationale around that? You know, so I know what MPSBA is gonna say. I suspect I know what Paul is gonna say. But what are the rationale and does that make as much sense, or does that make more sense to go without audio than not? And so I guess just a justification around that is probably what I would feel more comfortable with.
But if you know what all these people are going to say,
I still argue with them.
right, but we come back to that discussion of, you know, you're just doing it for the sake of doing it and you're not accomplishing
Then you know what the full justification is.
No, but the thing that the policy doesn't reflect is, you know, advances in technology and things like that. And I mean, if the cameras are able to zoom and, you know, and you're able to read the lips of somebody saying certain expletive, okay, no, but there are things, I mean, you know, verbal incitement to violence or what have you that, you know, might, granted, I think that to Brad's point, you know, about it could be used for abuse. Yeah. I think that I could argue that having, at least considering the use of audio and talking to people who are better versed in those pros and cons, but I think there are a couple situations that would arise where that would be beneficial. I could also see where you say you're talking about something that is a one-off, it's a 500-year flood. It's you know, it's something that happens very, very infrequently, and so is that something that needs to be built into the system, or, you know, do we try to adapt the policy somewhere along the line? I believe that there's a sensitivity to it that needs to be addressed that isn't present in the policy. The current policy is 15 years old, and I would, in the interest of redoing our security, in the interest of increased security in our schools, I would like to know that the discussion that was had considered all of those possibilities, even if we end up ostensibly determining that the audio is no go.
I agree.
So to Jason's point about where do we take it from here, we might get the fastest, I don't know necessarily the best answer, but we probably get the quickest answer through MTSBA referral. Say, you know, respectfully, you know, what is, you know, what's kind of the temperature of the room? Are you know, schools, are they avoiding this? I would imagine that if they're including this as optional language in the model policy, that they feel that there's a legal leg to stand on. So if they're actually offering this up as an optional circumstance, then why? The justification around it.
I think Joe.
Well, you know, all I was gonna say is that I know that the camera company actually goes on to native sound on their exterior cameras, and they do that for a reason. Yeah. It's not even an option.
I just, you know, I'm more than willing to, you know, to make those phone calls or send some emails and do some research if that's.
Yeah, I would volunteer, but my hands would be full with the strategic planning. I couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah, I got you. I know.
Yeah, otherwise I would volunteer
Okay.
to take that up, but my hands would be full.
Okay, so for the moment, how do we want to?
I move to table this policy. I think that's appropriate, isn't it?
Oh, it's non-debatable. Not debatable. Table motions, that's
Correct, it is
a
not.
non-debatable motion. Okay.
Very good. We will table that one pending some research.
And thank you for your patience around that discussion.
3236.
Okay, so, 3236, contraband dog search, standard operating procedure, USDA does not even have a model policy for the dog search that they can find. They rely on policy 3231, search procedure, include canine search. I do expect we do have procedure policy in place for the canine searches, which outlines what we can search and how we can still be done. So I would ask that we improve our policy within 246, contraband dog search, standard operating procedures, and
And we're still doing at least a couple of these each year, right?
Up to five.
Up to 5.
Yep.
How many so far? I'm just curious. How many so far?
We've done one and one time.
I'm fine with, I think having something that specifically lays that out, especially since, we're bringing in the sheriff, we're bringing in a third party to actually conduct that.
And the company we use has a very set standard of how they operate, how they're doing it. They're very careful to follow what they need to do and how they
I move to approve policy 3236, contraband dog search, standard operating procedures, as reviewed.
Second,
And moved and seconded to approve policy 3236, contraband dog search, standard operating procedures as reviewed. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Policy 4218.
Okay, this is the Title I parent involvement policy, and then the changes that we have in there, we the ones that were recommended, like public instruction, the school program. And so I would ask that we, I would recommend that we approve the change to policy 4218, Title I parent involvement for second.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve changes to policy number 4218, Title I parent involvement for second reading. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the changes to policy 4218, Title I, parent involvement for second reading. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Mr. Ross.
So, it seems as though we've had a little bit of a slowdown with, students wanting to transition to remote. And now our trend, I think, seems to be a little more, students interested in transitioning back into school from remote as the second semester this year. I don't really know the reason for that. There is some anticipation that math will be lifted. Several people ask about that. More than anything, I think people just realize, have come to the realization that the school offers a lot of things that remote learning doesn't. It's important for them, and parents have indicated that. It's a very positive discussion with parents. All of that leads to, just it seems like every month I have face issues and a growing student population being on. We still continue to average a couple students a week moving in at the K-8 level, and that trend continues throughout the school year. I've never seen it quite like this. And I know as we look at all of the, as I said, the remote learning, I think we're in the 70s with that K-8, and I believe we're about 50 homeschool students K-8. And so that number is held steady through the school year. I guess I am hoping we get a majority of the remote learning students back next school year. I do think there's probably going to be a small number that like the freedom of it, and they may just get into homeschool completely on their own. But assuming we get the vast majority of remote learners back and some of the homeschoolers that will have indicated they will come back, when this is over, we're going to have a lot more students in the building. And it's going to seem even, I think the teachers, it's going to seem even more crowded because this year we have a lot of the students gone, and we said, hey, we encourage people to spread out. And I've kind of been like, the less we have here, the better. So people that are wanting to remote learn, we certainly work with them. But it's going to seem even more crowded than it is, I think, when you get back to normal, and it's just something we'll have to kind of deal with. You couple that with, we already know there's going to be some space issues next year with the building project. We'll make it work, but, I just kind of keep trying to drive that point home with teachers that, it's the way it's going to be next year. If you watch the new building,
There's going to be
growing pain will have to go.
a year of suffering.
Yeah, and it'll be worth it in that. And I think, most teachers are like, yeah, whatever it takes to get this done, and we'll be introduced to this traveling, but we'll get to it. Also, we've seen an increase in special ed needs. We've got a couple situations that we haven't quite had to deal with in quite a while. Toileting things and things like that. So we're having to get some, work through with our professionals and with everybody and just kind of get everybody on the same page as far as the best and safest, the most convenient way to do that. So those needs just kind of constantly change as we go through the school year. You never know what's going to come or go. We've been in a pretty good spot at K-8 over the last couple of weeks before school was out, or the last week or so before school was out, and this week back, we've had pretty good attendance. But we're starting now, and it kind of seems like the switch was flipped, and we're kind of now have some family battling COVID situations again. I anticipate those to go back up, those absences to go back up with kids that are quarantined, parents or whatever, knock on wood. And very fortunate that we have not had to send close contact home for COVID. Good. That's what I need. And again, I'll just to be clear, what I said earlier, of all the students we've sent home, most of those, not all, do get tested as close contacts. To our knowledge, we have only had one student in the K-8 that tested positive from a close contact at school, where there was no other family member or close contact outside of school that had it in the household or something else. So I guess that's what I refer to as my evidence that something works, and that's really positive.
Hey, Brad, I was going to ask, regarding the special education, the increase in special education needs that you've identified, and given remote learners that you may have, do you have any remote learners that are special, that might need special education services? And if so, how is that being provided?
We do. We're doing that remotely. We have Ms. Fiddler and Ms. Townsend work a lot. They dedicate time to meet with those students and work with them. Some of them are actually getting instruction from, like in a pull-out situation, so it's on like a regular class. The teacher can train early. Then we have a paraprofessional that's also working remotely. She does not come to school. We have just kind of assigned her to check in with those students, so she's able to provide that help to those. We do have some that are, it's a challenge. We're also meeting those needs. Mrs. Payne is doing speech therapy, teletherapy. It's working well. And one of our kind of our outside but affiliated mental health people, or is it some of our special needs kids too, and she's doing it through a self-therapy situation. But we're getting them what they need. There is some that are difficult. It's just difficult to really, I guess, do the things that we need to do sometimes when there's hands-on manipulative type things. It's hard with younger elementary students. So I do think it's not the best situation for those students, it's the best it can be in a remote situation, but it would definitely probably benefit those students to be physically in the building. But we are working with them remotely.
Very well,
and
thank you.
able to implement IEPs and adapt it, whatever needs to happen.
All right, thank you.
And we're doing all IEPs virtually also. Actually, I think a lot of parents like that.
You're in the high school.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that after this is all over, there might be some things you want to keep.
I think absolutely. That's why I think it's crazy to make the parents take off work in the middle of the day to come into a meeting that could be done over their time for it's beneficial to have them. But you really, all you do is sit around the room and talk anyway for an IP, and they're able to see all the documents and get a DocuSign, and it's been.
We just got on the.
Oh, good.
I don't know how much the state will allow us to, have that leeway to do them as much, but it certainly fits. I mean, there's many times in the past we've had to call into a parent by phone or something because it's been like that. So I think it's a really practical solution. It's one thing that I think that made that comment that it's something to stay out of this. That is one that would really help. I think a lot of leaders kind of involved in it.
Thank you.
What's the best, I don't know, because it kind of bleeds into, K, high school as well, but with the end of the semester coming up here, right? You saw the Facebook post talking, encouraging people that if you are looking at making those transitions, to do so, and seem like at least from that limited kind of source that there wasn't a whole lot of feedback, there wasn't a whole lot of really review, but have people and parents reached out to actually make those transitions?
Yes. We have, we've got a handful of them that are coming back, that have made arrangements to come back. I can't think of the exact number off the top of my head, but through all grade levels, K-8, that still are coming back.
And as I comment on things, I appreciate, being ahead of the game and getting that notification out because, I don't know, it seems like, well, I know, even in my own household and work, there's the initial reminder, it's like, oh yeah, we got to think about that. And then there's like the second reminder, oh yeah, we really got to make that decision. And so, having that out there and through, whatever means you live and disseminate that, that I thought was very timely and very useful.
And we've had things, we had, we're only up to 33, 34 in the high school. But I think we have potentially a dozen coming back and two going that three going that I know of. So we have, I think the high school kids are missing their campus. And I actually had one come in and meet with me and started business. I think I made a mistake. I should have stayed on campus. So I think so. I think they're, and they have like good appreciation for, what they're doing and being in person. And I think they're, well, I think they're missing out. And now a lot of them will stay in next week. So it'll be, they might be talking out. I don't know yet. And that's not. Numbers haven't all figured out yet.
Well, and I just as a personal observation, I work with people in Helena, and we have sometimes those discussions, those parent group discussions. how things are going and all of that, and you can see how it's wearing on the parents whose kids are in the Helena School District schools. And, you know, the kind of the conversation may come around to me, and I'm like, yeah, you know, hey, everything's as rosy as it can be. And, you know, we've got good numbers in the county, and I think that, you know, that says something, and, you know, Brad's evidence of, you know, the close contact thing. Yeah, I just, that's one of those other things I think that, you know, we can take some credit in being ahead of the game and not being, you know, always reactive to something. And again, yeah, I, as a parent who's considered that and has had, like I say, numerous discussions with colleagues and parent groups, and whatnot across the state, we've got it actually very good.
We do have,
Thank you.
we have new students in the high school group coming in, so, yeah, definitely.
Thanks, it's all you.
Yay, kind of transitions right into it. End of semester is Friday, both in person and as well as high school staff's done a great job. We've had to tread water through a lot of different things with our remote winners and those and how to run the program and how to work things, but they're just doing a great job. We obviously are looking at the way that program is set up and all of our fellowships, you know, honestly, where they were at first quarter, and we know the semester is ending at first and second quarter. We're just looking at where are they at now? Are they halfway through? Are they at the mark they were supposed to be? Because there were a lot of obstacles in that first quarter for everybody trying to get into the program, how it's grading, how it blends with their progress, and just a whole host of things. So I think the staff has come up with some really great solutions to any of the problems that we have, and we have just worked on it a whole lot together. I am calling our representative to find out how we do transition those kids with some class changes in the high school, because we are obviously having to do that with different schedules. Some of the classes are set as a year-long class, some are semester classes, and most of them are year-long, very few are semester. But, you know, how we transition them, are those results just going to be starting Tuesday, or do we have to wait for our grades to get posted and then taking out classes and put them in the next class? We're not sure how that transition works, so I have a staff meeting today to make sure, you know, one of the parts was talking about, so to make sure the staff didn't have other questions, and then I'll give them a call tomorrow and kind of see what that looks like. We'll have quite a transition, I think, for the semester in the high school, with some of these things, but I think it's gonna go well, so everybody seems to be on top of it.
And I didn't quite follow, so I apologize. So some of the Acela students, which are the remote learners. So are you saying that some of the Acela classes are full year-long classes, or are they semester classes?
Most of them are year-long.
Okay, most of those are year-long, okay.
But there are those that are semester, or we stepped on that semester, so we had been, you know, we said, this is an Olympic semester, we have to do it this point by January.
Okay. And then of course, the face-to-face classes, again, the same question. Now, obviously, many of those are semester, but some of those year-long classes as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both, okay, all right. So for those students who have decided, say, and this may not be even the particular class or discipline that's involved. And let's take algebra just for instance, so if they started algebra Celis, let's just assume algebra is a year-long course, which it obviously it probably is, you know, simply an example. Okay, so if they started algebra and Celis, and then decided to go ahead and go face-to-face, and pick up algebra at the semester and finish out face-to-face. And you know, I know that you said there's very low, some disparities. Are you seeing disparities? What are you seeing? You know, is it going to be a huge challenge to that consistent learning and retention throughout a year-long course? What are the things that you're seeing, and from a very practical, boots on the ground perspective, what are the issues we're running into?
So there will be, you know, obviously the curriculum is not exactly that. But what we're finding, and what the teachers, they've actually been pretty proactive about it, so most of, they go in, they look, they can kind of see the content, the syllabus, the content of the lesson, and, are able to, for example, if it comes back to an for a class, they can see where they left off, what the content was. It's pretty consistent with what normal algebra would be. Is it going to be at the exact end spot? No. Is it going to be at the exact beginning spot? No. And so there may be some gaps that we will find that out and we have to get some depth on campus. But, you know, for example, Mrs. Asmus can look at the algebra and see, okay, they've gone through these concepts. What are some of the lessons or content, the things I'm going to have to do to bridge that gap for this particular kid? Maybe they're going to have to get together for a couple of individual lessons to get to their class. Or a lot of times they've been able to be pretty proactive and make sure kids are really kind of close to where they are. And so that they can set, okay, by halfway through, this is where I usually am in my curriculum. What does that look like in itself? And they're getting pretty close. So I don't think it's going to be to that as long as the kids have been participating and engaging. That's why I see the problem. If we have those students that have done nothing for the first semester and excel it, and then they're going to come back on campus, we may have some huge, learning gap issues. They aren't even sitting in person in the classroom absorbing it, at least auditorily, or what even if they're actually at home, if they're not. That's where I think we're going to see the most difficulty.
How many remote learners do you think we're having coming back into the classroom will be in that situation? And just guessing, just ballpark.
5 or 6.
Okay.
So pretty low numbers.
Okay.
We've only got 33, 34, I think there is in the high school, out of 210 kids anyway. So it's still pretty low.
That's where having that anticipatory kind of communication,
Right.
with the teacher and the student is, I can't imagine that the switch just turns one day and they say, I want to go back.
Yeah.
I would imagine that just the exposure to the program and how things are moving, I mean, that it's a cumulative effect,
We even had a student reach out and say, okay, if I was to come back in person, this is how far ahead they were thinking, a senior. He said, would I be able to come back maybe that week before the semester and just to see how matched up I am with some of my classes and that. And that was one of the things they were considering too, is doing something like that as well. So I don't foresee it being really awful. I do, there's going to be a few things that are going to be more rough transition, but I think it's going to be, fairly okay for the rest of them. I think the teachers are going to be able to identify, some holes if they're on.
We'd have that discussion with the parent, I was
Yeah.
a student at that time. You, based on what we're learning in class versus Acela, and how well you take into that. Once letters got involved in math, I was out. So, so having, having those very real discussions about the student's aptitude and what their capabilities are underneath that platform or whatever. I mean, yeah.
Well, and I think through the high school level, the teachers have been pretty interactive with them, so they do know where they are. I mean, they help them, they coach them, they have Google Meets with them, particular students want to get rid of help already, and kids have been reaching out. So, I think a lot of that has already happened, where it's not going to be, too hard of a transition.
So you say there's about 30 remote learners at this point, give or take? And how many of those, and you spoke to this to some extent, or at least implied it, how many of those have you not heard from, seen, or may have kind of sort of lost?
There is probably 10 to 12. So, and it's been difficult even contacting parents or having anybody who wants to be back or getting them touch or.
That's like a third.
Yeah, it's different. That's frustrating,
And I realize you lose people.
Or they're not reaching, they're not answering the teachers' inquiries or emails, or there's just a disconnect. And we saw it in the spring too, when we had the all remote. And so, yeah, that's a concern. I am worried. I made a lot of phone calls this week trying to get a hold of parents to just touch base and see where we are and what's happening with that.
And I fully realize that even given a face-to-face environment, that sometimes those sorts of things happen with little students as well. I understand that, so, okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
And then, let's see, just quickly, this is usually kind of our, in January, we talked about some of the NFSA just, and HSA resolutions or proposals, we really haven't seen any new ones, I don't think they actually went through that process to see what everything was. They have enough to do, quite honestly, everybody has enough to do, they handle the take care of, so, Brad kind of spoke to, some of the spectator stuff, and we've talked about a lot of that, that already. Probably our biggest challenge, we finally got the NFHS camera up and running in one gym. We did do some talk today at our tech meeting about possibly bringing in a third camera because they are so far behind. And honestly, I know Joe has just been so diligent, and myself and anybody else has been working to get those stupid cameras. It's a nightmare. And they've been up and posted. They finally got our football one calibrated and ready to go like December 5th. I don't know.
Yes.
Well, after football season. And then the one in the gym was still not working. Well, right during Christmas break or right before Christmas break, they got that one up and running. Minor things wrong, scores aren't working, but they're not working for anybody. I watched the Manhattan game, the Christian game from Bill Horn's room, and it was what's saying.
Yeah, it was the same
There
one.
were score issues to that too. There was talk of maybe getting or purchasing another camera for the other gym because we still have competitions going. Now we've got both gyms, and when wrestling happens, we're going to have wrestling going in a couple of gyms at the same time too. Bill Horn kind of popped in at the last minute and said, it sounds like NFHS might still have cameras available for free. So we may jump on that and see if we can get that taken care of.
People do appreciate it.
I know they do, and especially in the current, our hands are tied, we can't FaceTime anything, we can't live stream anything, we can't do anything unless it's through NFHS, and they have to subscribe, but we do get a percentage kickback from that. We had that for, I don't know, almost $300 not too long ago, from subscription, so that's like into the activity fund to help offset some of that. So yeah, we're trying them, we're doing the best we can.
And ours actually, for even at the end of football, looked better than
That
a
was
lot
all,
of the other schools.
that was all Trinity Band. All of that was due to Trinity and here's equipment.
Hey, and what I mentioned for our audience and for all of us here, just that discussion around the time frame of, whether it's we fix the third camera or move something or whatever the case is, the time frame, the potential time frame around the actual completion of the configuration and setup. It'd probably be good to mention just for our viewers and such.
For a third camera.
For a third camera.
Yeah, we can move the one from the football field to the inside. It's gonna take a little bit to get that done, but not, it's mainly, we can move the equipment, that's not the issue. It's getting in touch with their end of it. Yeah.
And it's definitely not, it could take them a month to get to it.
It's been very slow and dubious. So yeah. Spectators been pretty good. Obviously, wrestling and basketball and lobby indoors could be a lot different. We've had as we do. We've expanded some area for our visitors. We've had to, only if you're only playing your A, B, and C squad, you have to leave after those games because not everybody can take the varsity. We can't keep the overall number. We've got a few different steps. We've got to limit some attendance by off-campus students just because we don't have a room. We have no really open seating at a lot of our basketball games for the general public because we just don't have and with all that. But everybody's been pretty understanding and it's gone pretty well. Staffing of our events is I'm just going to say it's rough. It is really hard and we're short all the time trying to get stuff. We need, instead of, 2 ticket takers for an entire night of basketball, I need 4. Instead of, everything is just because we got the back doors, front doors, visitors. And honestly, the supervision and the admin end of it is stepped up as well, covering all those things and making sure everybody's wearing their masks. And we have to keep, so people where their seats are and make sure the teams are in the right areas. And it's a lot. And so staffing some of those things is tough. And then You know, we look into, I actually have parents volunteer to take some tickets and stuff that they have to, either they have to be approved as a volunteer, they have to be hired to be paid. So, I mean, there's so much different, but it's like, well, geez. So, we're hanging in there, we're doing the best we can, but we are definitely short-handed on a lot of stuff.
Sherry, are we, I know ticket taking is a huge issue, especially as having that too. Are we, and you know my stance on
Yeah.
the COVID precautions, but are we gaining that much safety-wise, do you think, doing two entrances? I mean, is for the headache you're going through, or is there a way to go back to that single entrance and kind of just funnel them in and keep them from, I mean,
We've talked about that.
they're wearing masks as they enter?
Yeah, we have talked about that, and a lot of it are the teams as well, like, for instance, when the teams are arriving or whatever, sometimes it's, they're supposed to go to the side door, when they come to the front door, and it's right, for schools getting out, we have all those meetings that we have, to dump them off to the side. General admission for the public, though, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it seems to have worked, we aren't getting a lot of cross exposure.
No, I'm not critical at all.
No,
I'm trying to see
I
if
know,
there's a
Brad, I
better
know
way.
you're on our side when it comes to that sort of thing, but yeah, it makes things a lot different, so that might be something to consider. You know, I think if we don't put people on the path, like we've been keeping visitors all through that hallway, the back restrooms, so there's no, and if we kind of have them coming all the time, I'm afraid we're gonna get all that in the lobby and mingling and meet visitors and.
Create a whirlwind.
Yeah,
No,
kind
it's
of.
pretty good, they did, well, and it was pretty smooth, but I mean, there's that potential in the lobby,
Right.
but it was, I don't know, it didn't
We may
seem.
have to
Of
look
course,
at
you
something.
could go straight from the ticket booth into your side. too,
Right.
That makes sense,
But they were, you know, we had to use the same bathroom,
right?
so you,
Yeah, I don't know, I know it's a hassle.
Well, I know, but we're figuring it out, and maybe.
I guess my question is, are you picking the, in terms of the ticket taker on the home side, are you picking up much revenue? I mean, with it being parents, are those, most of those people already have a pass? Or is it mostly just regulating?
It's a little of both, it's a little of both. You know what I'm saying? There's probably more at the back end because everybody's coming,
Right.
so it's definitely. A lot of people do have options, but we are picking up some revenue, and on some nights we need it because we couldn't even pay our, we didn't make enough to, what do you pay? I'm not saying we didn't pay our revenue, I'm saying we didn't make enough.
Well, we need to wait till they're done anyway to pay them.
Yeah, I get that, yeah, totally done. So we didn't make enough revenue to cover our, on a couple of those things, so yeah. But I get kind of thought, we picked them around a lot. I'm up for any suggestions, that's a good thought, right? I mean,
But yeah, you know, Three Forks was the same way. Everybody still came in the same door. So we probably don't, we're the only place I've been to so far that is
Oh, and we
divided.
really did divide the lobby kind of, I guess, you know, it's just the restrooms, everybody would, we could ask visitors to use the restroom. There might be some other ways to do that. We're looking at. Thanks for
Well, I
the-
appreciate what you guys have done with it. I know, I'm glad we get to go to games, and I'm glad you guys are trying to be safe.
We have no, we don't plan on letting my clients on the master, I didn't say it at this point, you know. I just feel like I'm on Brad's train of thought, and if that's what being in the trenches at the school for all these months, I feel like it's definitely happening. I feel like it's looking about that, so. What else I have? We did meet with the tech community today, a lot of the discussion centered, we did talk about the cameras, a lot of it was discussion centered around, you know, we moved to one-to-one, obviously, a device and everybody can. Obviously, there are problems with that, but it's also been very good to do that as well. So we kind of feel like this has been a good step to figure out troubleshooting those problems we're having. A lot of it centers around what do we do with lost Chromebooks that, you know, when kids we go remote and they don't bring their stuff back, or we have some of that in the spring too, or broken Chromebooks, we've got a lot of broken screens and.
Did we get the Chromebooks that we had? They still have.
Still
Still
waiting.
have, yes, there's way stages and what.
Yeah, overall, you know, it's been pretty good, I think, Phil and Luke have done a great job trying to manage all of the devices out, and all those different kids, and problems have actually been pretty people real good. I mean,
We definitely.
we are after that, we're running out on them, so hopefully we'll get that.
With all these kids coming in, it seems like we're down to the last one with every week. Somehow we manage to find one and make it happen, but we're getting down to the place where we don't have the right to do it. So March can come quicker than that expected.
Well, and one thing we didn't even talk about today, but it popped in my head, do we bring all those back in? Do kids or students, do they teach their Chromebook on that too? Do they, I don't know, there's interesting discussions we may have to talk about what we do with that, but I think overall, most people feel it's kind of a good thing to go one-to-one, and that's overall, the teachers are definitely taking advantage of it. They are using their Google Classrooms way more, and they're doing a lot now, so that's been really good, that blended kind of instruction from really good. And then, yeah, just some upcoming stuff, not a whole lot, no friends, and we don't have school on, next Monday, I think, we're gonna talk about that, and, looking at some speech and drama virtual state meet at the end of January, and I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what that looks like as far as the state goes. I know there are virtual speech and drama competitions, have been pretty good, they've been going quite well.
My wife judged this last weekend, and it seemed like there was some improvement in the flow of things.
Right.
So,
My understanding is fine.
it was still behind. I mean, speech meets always seem like they're behind, because it's just getting tab sheets and feedback and that kind of thing. But I was just curious more if the kind of the kinks in the platform have been ironed out.
Yeah, I would just based it, Aiden's been judging almost every week. And,
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
considering, how it normally is for trying to secure judges and the fact that you could be in your bathrobe and judge a meet, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
helps
and,
a lot.
and I talked to him a little bit about that, and the process and the experience. And, he really hasn't had any real complaints, or any, and he can be fairly critical about certain things. Hasn't been terribly critical about the actual tech and procedures and processes and all of the Zoom stuff, then the organization that goes with it. And if you wanted to be critical about that kind of stuff, he'd be that. So as far as that goes, it sounds like it's been coming out pretty well. I'm not sure if the students that are performing are as comfortable in the environment
It is really awesome.
as
They've
the
expressed that,
judges.
Yeah.
But by the same token, I mean, we, as speech parents, we've all seen what gyms full of students, are like, and it is the exact opposite of everything, that we have been trying to live for the last, 8 or 9 months. But there's also, I mean, a very real resource savings in doing virtual meetings. And again, that might be a byproduct that, depending on what happens with plans and vaccines and things like that is maybe something that, we have the discussion, activities wise about maybe being, we can do more, but maybe not necessarily go more, and still, save some resources, money, gas, not having to, pay for bus drivers, things like that, wear and tear, whatever.
And I think maybe even the most important aspect of that is that for those performers, they're going to be living and working in a digital world, and half their lives can be on Zoom. I mean, I firmly believe that in some way, shape, or form in the global environment. So having the experience of working in that, in that environment, learning in that environment, learning how to present themselves in that environment, is not a bad deal.
Sounds like they're doing well, so. They're doing well. So. That's really all I have. I want to know that I don't know how it happened, but I had no discipline referrals in December. It was a short month, but Apparently,
Everything helps, right?
They were behaving themselves in the high school. We were having too much fun in December, so maybe that just helped. I don't know.
One quick question for Brad. The science fair, I assume they've had to change the plans?
Yes, we are doing the science fair still, carrying forces, but we're looking at a virtual format.
Okay.
So, yeah, students will still get a chance to show their knowledge in the scientific process. But
I did meet with, Mr. Peter about what her plans were. He actually listed some of the kind of like ideas on how to make it happen. I think he has a plan now finally of what he wants to do with it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
yeah, it'll work, and the next level's on for virtual also, so.
They've made that determination
Yep.
already. Okay. I figured they probably have, but I hadn't asked my little expert yet.
You're expert. You're informing.
My informant, that's right, yeah. Mr. Wilkerson.
Well, we already covered the boiler issue. With the enrollment, I had the last numbers just because we didn't have them before we did this. But just from last month and this month, we're up to two. So from one month to the next. So it's climbing. We already talked about the mask mandate. We do have a PIR day, teacher instruction related day on Monday. We are going to use that as a bookkeeping / prep day for teachers, because they're doing double duties, everything else. That's going to be their day to close out the old semester and get prepared for the new semester. The only thing we may be doing is the new county DES coordinator. They are purchasing what they call blood kits, bleeding kits.
Yeah.
Kits to stop bleeding in an emergency, such as an active shooter, something like that, for the entire school and buses and everything. They talked about doing some training. I told them if we could do it on that day, that'd be great, and it was pretty short notice. So we may do that in order to do it in very small groups. We can't do it everybody together to do it. So that's what we're looking at, and that's all I've got, sir.
The only other thing I would add to that boiler issue, just for everybody to put on their radar, talking with Rich, who's been in there, he said something we need to think about and look at is, he said, the hot water boiler, the hot water heater for that high school. It's at its lifespan, just like those boilers. And he said
And Rich is the guy in the center.
yeah, and he said it made some atrocious noises when they were in there the other day. It's like it scared the guys who were working on the boiler. So anyway, he just said we need to put that on our radar, as we're looking at, some of that potential, that money that we talked about. But anyway, we can say that for another day, but that's just something he said we need to think about.
Yeah, there's mention that.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to share something just for a second. I emailed you guys an article the other day, and maybe you read it, maybe you didn't, maybe just hit delete. Did you read it?
I read it.
All right, great. There's an article from ABC News really discussing, and for all of us here, really discussing, basically, nationwide, learning loss that's associated with remote learning. And there were some points I could agree with, some I didn't agree with, and I just kind of shared a little bit around that. The takeaway I really wanted to share tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the article and considered it. But the takeaway I really wanted to share was that I personally, and I know all of us, really appreciate the efforts the staff, faculty, the administration has made in order to keep our school running face-to-face, almost entirely face-to-face. There's been a great deal of learning loss with remote learning, and there were, there's always excuses and reasons and so on and so forth. You guys, overcame all the challenges, and we're there, and thank you very much. And that article really brought that idea to mind to me.
Yeah, I know in other districts, I don't want to say names, but they started the year with the A/B schedule,
And, you know, the learning loss even there in only having those kids 2 days a week. And so they took one or two grade levels about partway through, I think it was either October, November, and decided, okay, we're going to bring this grade level back full time and see how it goes. And it, you know, the change has been dramatic. Yeah. And so, yeah, no, I agree. We've done a very good job, and whatever we can do.
Well, and then they.
Yeah, not, definitely not.
We just sit here and get paid for it.
Yeah.
You guys, we do. You know, okay, let me just share. The school board at Barrow High School in Alaska, they actually get paid full insurance and they get paid stipends.
Gotta live in rural Alaska.
I learned that the other day. I was just. Oh,
Meeting
I'm not aware.
adjourned.
Whatever we got